Hello and welcome to my KSP video series. My name is Zero Gravitas, and my goal is to provide you, dear viewer, with an informative, entertaining and immersive look at a career game of Realism Overhaul. I've not used the Real Solar System mod and the associated RO pack very much before, and what I've learned so far is mostly that it's really great at making you feel like a noob again, which, to be honest, is something I've quite enjoyed. That said, you'll likely see me do stuff very wrong and make plenty of stupid mistakes, but this is KSP, and so, well, that's part of the fun, isn't it? I'm quite strict with myself, and I enjoy the satisfaction of playing quite a hardcore set of self-imposed rules. We'll explain some of those later on. One of them, though, is the dead means dead, so reverts will only be used when the game crashes or suffers a harmful bug. In all other circumstances, we'll just accept the consequences of our actions. Let's go and have a look at the sort of the settings I've used to set up this career game. This is my set of, I suppose, difficulty settings. As you can see, I've started on a hard difficulty and just made a few adjustments that I feel make Realism Overhaul slightly more possible, but also slightly more challenging. I've just tweaked down the re-entry heating, the funds penalties and the reputation penalties, just by sort of 20% each, or else I was finding it really was impossible to make the sort of progression I wanted. But I've also lowered the science rewards, the fund rewards and the reputation rewards down to 50%. I think it's 60% as standard in the hard difficulty mode. I've selected that I can allow stock vessels. I'm just using that so if I sort of save vessels in a different playthrough, possibly I could use them, or I could I don't know, export things and fiddle around with them. I'm not sure if I'll actually use that setting, but it seemed useful. And the allow quick loading is, as I just mentioned before, only to be used when the game crashes, game bugs out, that kind of thing. I'm going to quickly show you my mod folder. I don't really want to spend too much time looking at this. Please feel free to comment asking about any of the mods that you don't recognise. A lot of them are to do with Real Solar System, Realism Overhaul. There are a few extra ones that I think are fun, like Kerbal Construction Time. It just really plays well, really plays nicely, I think, with getting this high level of immersion. I've got lots of contract packs, which we'll have a look at in a moment. What else is particularly interesting? Haven't gone for any of the beautification mods that add clouds, that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, just because I'm running 32-bit Windows version of the game, and just stick to the memory limit over. Hopefully that'll all be sorted when we shift over to Unity 5, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. I've got a few more that sort of just make the game a little bit more immersive. Things like persistent rotation, which means that you don't get to just stop the ship whenever you want by time warping. Anything else particularly fun and exciting? I've got a few that aren't really suitable to use with Realism Overhaul, like the custom asteroids. I think that mod's just so old it's not firing properly. I was getting some error messages from that mod, but I've just sort of edited the config file to switch off error messages, so I don't know if that'll work or not, but it doesn't seem to be causing too many problems yet. Might just get rid of it, might update it if it ever does get updated. I think it's still set for KSP version 0.25 at the moment, which is a long time ago. Dang it, I've got there, which, as I'm sure you all know, adds random failures, basically. So that means we're going to have the chance to run some kind of Apollo 13, oh no, something's broken, we've lost, what have you. That just makes it more fun, more immersive. Extraplanetary launch pads, which should possibly integrate nicely with the base building mods. What is that called? MKS, I think it's called, which I believe is in there somewhere. So might be able to construct a few ships in orbit once we get that far through the tech tree. As far as tech tree goes, we're using the SETI tech tree. It's not the one particularly specified to use with Realism Overhaul, but I just really like it, so we'll see if it works. Yeah, I think that's about it at the moment. So I mentioned the contract packs. One thing that I feel KSP does lack is enough variety of different things to do. So I really enjoy a career game, but putting 100 different satellites in particular orbits, not the most thrilling, I don't think. I think if you play too much career, it's quite easy to burn out. However, the contract configurator mods had a whole variety of stuff to do, which you can see here. The top set contract configurator contracts. You can see I've got historic missions, base construction missions. KAB is Kerbal Aircraft Builders. So it gets you to build planes and things. We've got missions for remote tech, ScanSat. Not quite sure whether there's 2 ScanSat ones, but never mind. Tourism. Then we've got D-Magic, which has lots of science experiments and also contracts. Station Science, which is to do with building big space stations, putting modules on them. And then I've turned off some of the stock contracts, so no part testing because I can't bother with part testing. No recover assets. Basically, that's just for immersion. There's no other space agencies on Earth at the moment in this game. So how are the random Kerbals in pods getting stuck in orbit if I didn't stick them there? If anyone wants to make a mod that maybe combines Dang It with the recovery, so maybe if your vessel gets stranded, then it'll spawn a contract to rescue them. That would be amazing, but otherwise I think we'll play without that. Anyway, that's about enough of that, I think. Because we will be playing in a somewhat hardcore fashion, with extra difficulty mods such as TAC life support, with an unforgiving attitude to reverts, and also just playing career with RSS, which means even the loss of a simple probe could set us back in funds. The loss of a pilot could be catastrophic. So what you might notice is that more time is spent on planning missions and sort of discussing some of the science, some of the equations, some of the maths than in some other playthroughs you might have seen. I'd also like to have a few segments that explain some of the science behind flying spacecrafts, partly because it may be of use to some people playing the game, and partly just because I think that the more science is understood by the more people, then the better, really. As I mentioned, I really want this to be an immersive playthrough, and one of the questions that I ummed and ahed about the most was the use of computer control, i.e. MechJeb. In reality, MechJeb I think adds realism to the game. No rocket in real life is flown by direct control of a pilot. However, the truth is, I feel that because it gives so much autopilot type control, it actually makes the game less fun. So I won't be installing MechJeb. My compromise is threefold. Firstly, I'm using Remote TAC, which adds its own flight computer. Very simple. It basically gives you commands such as point prograde, point retrograde, and gives you like a simple kind of timing based, I suppose, timing based controls, that kind of thing. So you could tell it to burn a certain direction after some amount of seconds, which I think is realistic. For slightly more sophisticated computer control needs, or artificial intelligence, or whatever you might like to call it, there's also KOS, which I haven't really used very much before. I've slightly messed around with it, but I'd quite like to learn some more coding, so we'll mess around with that somewhat. Thirdly and finally, I'm also using VoiceAttack, which is a third-party program where you can use voice control to input commands to the computer. And in our game that's going to be realised by Alice. Alice, introduce yourself.
I am the automated launch initiation and control environment. I will run vessel system checks on the pad, activate the launch sequence and communicate information to the crew in flight.
Thanks, Alice. So yeah, you might hear a little bit more of her in the future. Anyway, that's probably about it for this initial video. If this sounds like the sort of series you might be interested or enjoy watching, then of course subscribe, or you could follow me on Twitter, Zero Gravitas KSC, or alternatively just check back here for episode 1. Anyway, see you next time.